Now here on the show, it is someone who has quickly become one of our most popular guests among the listeners. Last time she was on, the feedback I got on Twitter, on X, on social media was amazing. Gunnery Sgt. Jessie Jane Duff, Executive Director of Veterans for Trump. You can find her on X at Jessie Jane Duff. Gunny, man, I got to tell you, last time you were on, I swear I had about 400 emails and comments saying, get her on every day. They love you.
Oh, my goodness. I'm going to have to move to Ohio now. My goodness, I could run for mayor.
You could.
Let's find a real city where I can run for mayor. I think I could do this.
I wish you would. In fact, it's coming up here in Toledo soon if you want to.
Get all 400 to vote for me, and we can rig this election perfectly well. You know, Democrats do it all the time, right?
Come sleep on my couch till you win, until you find a place to live. It'll be fine.
We got it.
So the first thing that caught me last night, in the Harris-Walz interview on CNN, and I didn't watch it until early this morning because we had a Toledo Rockets football game last night. Kept me out late and cheering on the Rockets. I watched this morning, and Dana Bash's first question was, what's your plan on day one? Well, it's not day one. She has been in the White House with Joe Biden for the past 1,000+ days. Why hasn't she done or at least commented on any of the things that she wants to do, although I'm still unclear about exactly what she wants to do?
That was such a misleading question by Dana Bash that she would actually imply that this woman hasn't been in the White House up for, 3 years and 8 months. That in itself right there set the tone for the rest of the interview, that there was no acknowledgement that she's currently a major influencer. She currently has a say. She has the president's ear, because if you notice throughout the interview, Kamala is constantly talking about how impressed she is with Joe. She enjoys working with Joe. And it's interesting that I don't even know that does she still call him Joe? She should be addressing him as President Biden, which is completely the more appropriate title. That it's like me saying Donald. I don't do that. I say President Trump. But with that, it just set this tone of, we haven't been responsible for anything going on. So what are you going to do to fix it, young lady? It's just awful.
Well, and it sounds like from everything she said, you would think that Donald Trump has been president for the past 10 years. And I think many of us wish that he had been, but there's no acknowledgement of the mistakes that this administration has made for the past 3.5 years. There's no accountability for the failure of Bidenomics, for the trillions of dollars that Democrats passed, that she, by the way, was the deciding vote for in the Senate for the so-called American Rescue Plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Build Back Better plan, all of these failed programs that drove inflation up to record levels for the past 3 decades.
Well, she also, this is something that's very interesting. She also admitted she has never met Donald Trump, which tells you she never was on the poll high enough to even get an invitation to the White House, to have sit-down meetings with him, to advocate for policy changes, to have influence during the Trump administration. And a very successful senator or congressman would want to have that opportunity, because then they could actually have firsthand knowledge. She's never even had firsthand knowledge of working with or trying to negotiate with or try to persuade President Donald J. Trump. So now she's back here trying to say that he's such a horrible, mean-spirited man. It sounds to me like Jessie Jane Duff has actually met President Donald J. Trump more than Kamala Harris. So maybe I should be running, because this is absolutely insane that she has no first-hand knowledge of working with this man on any type of level, advocating with or against or however, other than being a microphone for Joe Biden and the drum beater for the former Obama administration that has infiltrated the entire White House, for that matter. So here we have this lady who cannot even coherently state any type of relationship she's ever had working with the previous administration, but yet she's over here trying to tell us that the previous administration has created the current policies that are making all Americans suffer under her and Joe Biden's administration. Make it make sense. This is like reading one of these cartoons, Bizarro World. This is Babylon Bee, for goodness sake. It's Donald Trump's fault that I failed.
I love the Babylon Bee tweet I just saw. 5 guys is now down to 2 guys because of increased California minimum wage laws. So, the Onion sometimes hits it square on the head. Maybe it was a Babylon Bee, one of those two. Last night, Kamala Harris bizarrely claiming she's proud of bringing inflation down to a higher level than it was when she took office. It was 1.4% when President Trump left office, and since then we haven't hit the Fed target levels. It's been the worst inflation in 3 decades, but she's standing by Bidenomics.
Of course she has to. They're trying to repeat a lie long enough so that we'll believe it. And I dare to say that only the most die-hard blue Democrats, far left, who just are advocating for power. Really what it boils down to is power and profit, people who have been enabled by Democratic policies to line their pockets. Look at the people that profit off of this. It's usually your limousine liberals. They've often profited off of illegal immigration. Think about it. We've had illegal immigration problems for decades. And much of this has been because politicians have people back in their hometowns, and we even know Republicans were a part of this, that have been profiting off of illegal labor. So it's a $10 billion industry, a lot of human trafficking, a lot of women and children have become enslaved under this current administration. Basically, Kamala Harris now is one of the largest human traffickers in the world. Not only that, she has enabled the drug cartels, and they have killed 300 Americans a day. This is data I actually had to look up when I heard Doug Bergman say it, the governor who was running also for president and then became a staunch ally of President Donald J. Trump. He said 300 a day. He said if this was an airliner going down every day, it'd be in the headlines. But no, Americans are dying at that rate. So she's enabled drug cartels. She's enabled human trafficking. But yet she wants to talk about we're the threat to democracy when they have infiltrated the country with so many foreigners that our own democracy can't even sustain itself because now they're funneling money to all of these illegals. What about these home loans that California has just passed, that the illegals will be eligible for these opportunities to get, or was it grants? Maybe I'm wrong. Taxpayer-funded grants. Regardless, taxpayers are hemorrhaging to enable others, and yet they can't even go to the grocery store without 20% higher in food prices. Oh, and she wants to regulate that too. So now we get to stand in line to pay these ridiculous prices because of their regulations, their tax increases, their increases in fuel costs. Oh, and the threats of foreign wars that are advocating against the freedom that we have right here today.
We're talking to Gunnery Sgt. Jessie Jane Duff, Executive Director of Veterans for Trump. Find her at Jessie Jane Duff on X, on Twitter. I want to get to the piece of work who is Governor Tim Walz in a second, but on the topic of immigration, when Kamala Harris says in the interview last night that her values have not changed, then we have to look at and take her at her word, I guess, especially on the topic that you were just talking about, immigration, when Vice President Harris called a border wall a vanity project. And now 12 million illegals later, she's supposedly, I guess, changing her mind in the middle of a presidential campaign. But she also went to court to stop funding for the wall and lost. She sold sections of the unfinished wall for pennies on the dollar. She helped illegals cross into the country through that CBP One app and the unlawful use of parole. She refuses to reinstate remain in Mexico. She hasn't changed her mind on giving free health care to illegals. She wants to decriminalize illegal crossings, which makes it essentially a traffic ticket. And she compared ICE and other law enforcement agencies to the KKK. So those are the values that she says she hasn't changed her mind on.
Exactly. And yet she runs an ad. She's trying to flip on that and runs an ad with guess whose border wall featured in the ad? Oh, gee, President Donald J. Trump, where she's talking about the importance of having a secure border. So she's trying to persuade those that might be moderates or anti-Trump or whomever that she really is going to assist them. While when you listen to her historical strategies that she has stated out loud, there has been nothing American about what she has said. It's all been so incredibly anti-American. So she gets up there and she was able to tout her thrills as a prosecutor, where she was able to go after drug cartels. And how many years ago are we talking about now? 15 plus years ago, when in fact she enabled crime in California with the Prop 47. She's pretty much set the standard there, where people don't get criminalized for under $1,000 that they have shoplifted. That's why places like Walgreens and other stores have boarded up in San Francisco, because there is no prosecution against these criminals that are rampantly shoplifting and destroying stores. This is a result of her lackluster policies. But what about all of the criminals that were in prison due to be set release, and she had ensured ensured that they would not be released so she could utilize them as free labor or very cheap labor, I should say, in the California wildfires? Or what about, let's talk about the man. When she wants to go after Donald J. Trump on prosecutions, his rebuttal should be, yes, we all know that there are attorney generals out there that will flagrantly prosecute somebody who is innocent, and name the man that went to prison for 13 years in California because she prosecuted him. He was found innocent of murder, and he got, maybe it wasn't 13 years. He won $13 million in a lawsuit against San Francisco because of her. She sent him to prison, and he was innocent. I believe he spent a decade in prison. But with that, so yes, we know prosecutors can actually have their own political measures and motives, because that's exactly what she has demonstrated. This White House coordinated 3 attempts to go after prosecute Donald J. Trump on the exact same day. He announced he was running for president on November 15th. On 3 days later, they sent Nathan Wade up to the White House, where he spoke extensively for 8 hours. Nathan Wade, the Fonnie Willis lover who was trying to prosecute him down in Georgia. They sent Michael Colangelo up to New York to work with Alvin Bragg, and the drum roll, Jack Smith was assigned to become the special prosecutor outside of the realms of Congress, all on the same day to all prosecute Donald J. Trump. You cannot tell us it wasn't coordinated by this White House, because we have the receipts, Mrs. Harris.
I think I know why listeners love you. Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff on the Scott Sancho. I want to squeeze in 2 more points if we can. One, Governor Tim Walz was asked about his rank and about carrying a weapon in war. He said it was a grammatical mistake. I thought he was a teacher, first of all. I'm not sure teachers should be making grammatical mistakes like that. Your thoughts, Gunny, on that comment?
You know what's reprehensible is that he did not address the rank issue. He did not say to himself that, you know what, everybody knows for 19 years I utilized saying I was a command sergeant major, knowing darn well within 45 days of me holding that rank, I was demoted to master sergeant upon my retirement. I know this, but I don't want them to know this, because that makes me a liar trying to become the second one heartbeat away from becoming commander-in-chief. The fact that he tried to suggest that he misspoke is dishonest, because we have tapes upon tapes of him never correcting anybody who said he had fought in combat or served in a combat zone, I should say. He has been on CNN, MSNBC, a variety of networks. In fact, Nancy Pelosi even praised him, and members of Congress praised him, and always said he was a command sergeant major with combatant experience. He even gave an award to the National Guard that was there in Congress when he was in Congress. 22 months, the unit he abandoned, spent in Afghanistan, the longest serving unit of any National Guard unit in Afghanistan. And during the entire presentation, it gives the impression that it was his unit. All of these illusions, even at the Democratic National Convention, they rolled a tape. His wife said, and we love him, when he became a command sergeant major, I had to call her out. Yes, he became one for 45 days. And then was reduced in rank. He should never carry that title. And when he was introduced by Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania, she said a command sergeant major. This has been such a nonstop lie on his part. All of us, trust me, unless you are the most diehard Democrat veteran, you know this man lied. Even those that are defending him know he lied. And it's indefensible. It is stolen valor. It's a great discredit to all of us who served on active duty, that are not trying to prop ourselves up with extraordinary activities that we never committed, because there's too many men and women that died actually sacrificing their life and limb and personal injury, that lost everything for our freedom. And for him to try to do that to prop himself up for political gain is absolutely the most disgusting, vile thing that could happen to Americans, to see somebody running for president on that platform.
All right, so I need to build on that point, and I hate to end on a downer, Gunny, but your thoughts on Donald Trump at Arlington this week. Did he violate protocol? Did he violate the reverence of Arlington National Cemetery by using it for political purposes, by posing for a photo, even though the family apparently wanted the photo? That's against the protocol at Arlington, and the rules were made clear. Is Donald Trump in the wrong for doing that?
I think what Arlington is in the wrong to try to exploit this, because we know that we have photos, intense number of photos of President Obama and Joe Biden doing the very same thing at Arlington Cemetery. When you're commander-in-chief, even a previous commander-in-chief is there to honor those that have died in service of this great nation, and the families are seeking them to be there and want to remember this moment. It is in honor of those families. The families themselves never complained or protested or pushed them away or felt that this was disrespectful. They sought this, and they are losing sight of this because the left wants to exploit this instead of exploiting who was on the beach that very day on the anniversary of the 13 died at Abbey Gate. Who was laying there and showing his true colors as he was trying to tan? Joe Biden. Where was Kamala Harris? Both of them were invited. On July 28th, they were invited, and on August 9th, the White House confirmed this, and they ignored it. And why did they ignore it? Because they didn't want their left-wing media out there filming them out there and then having to bring up this horrible stain upon the administration that they had done such a Keystone Cop type of withdrawal. It was such a debacle. They had upped the date even further back than what their original goal was because they wanted to make sure they didn't get anywhere close to September 11th so that they could take credit for ending the longest war that the United States has ever been in, but at the cost of those men and women who died by a suicide bomber that was in the sights of the sniper, but he could not get authorization to fire. They weren't even combatant Marines that were on that post. And yet Kamala Harris has not fired anyone. Joe Biden hasn't fired anyone because everybody on active duty knows that that was a mess. It was a disaster. It made us all look like we were unorganized and ill-prepared. Yet we had how long to prepare for this? They had a plan given to them by Donald J. Trump, and they discarded that plan because they wanted to put their mark on it, and oh, did they. They have nothing to complain about because he showed up.
Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff on the Scott Sand Show, Executive Director of Veterans for Trump, JessieJaneDuff.com, and on X on Twitter, at Jessie Jane Duff. I don't think you're following me yet. Go give me a follow, Jessie. I love you, and it's great to have you on. Our listeners love you, too.
I will look you up right now. God bless you all. Take the hill. We have got, under 70 days. We're at about 65 days. All right, everybody, get your jogging shoes on because it's a sprint now. We're going to sprint this out. We're going to take this hill. We're going to win.